This is a brand new Specialized Tarmac SL8, a bike that the US company says is one bike that rule them all. But what the heck does that actually mean? Well, it means a frame that's sub 700 grams and a frame that's more aero than the old Venge. So fast and lightweight. You can have your cake and eat it. And in this video, I'll talk you through all the details and changes, see how much it weighs, and of course, go for a ride and see how it performs and handles. Because I'm David, and you're watching Just Ride Bikes. Let's dive in. So the Tarmac SL8 is the 8th generation, and the original was first launched back in 2003. Hands up if you remember that bike. I do. And that bike showed the company's focus on aerodynamics, but with the SL2 a few years later, they really went after weight. But with the SL6 and more recently the SL7, they refocus on that combination of weight and aerodynamics and make it easier to choose a bike. And that's great for both the pros and for us consumers as well. Because a few years ago, you had a choice: aerodynamics, but sacrificing weight, or lightweight, but not be as aero. But now the SL8 seems to be a new frontier of a truly lightweight and aerodynamic bike. So pretty exciting indeed, because let's put some numbers on their changes. We're talking a frame that weighs a claimed 685 grams, which is just astonishing. That's lighter than most aero frames on the market, barring the super lightweight ethos. And then it's more aero than the old Venge, a claimed 16.6 seconds faster, over 40 km an hour, than the old SL7, but there's no power data on that aero improvement, so take it with a pinch of salt at face value as always. So most of the claimed aero improvements come from the front of the bike, and particularly this, the brand new head tube. What they've essentially done is create a nose cone. They apparently tested 6 variants and landed on this one, adding 25 grams of weight to the frame of the old SL7. And then we have a deep fork blades, and on top the new Roval Rapide one-piece aero handlebar stem launched a few weeks ago. This is claimed to offer another 4 watts of improvement in aero drag. It's 50 grams lighter as well, and comes in 15 combinations of stem length and handlebar width. And thanks to new UCI rules around tube dimensions, the seat tube is now much slimmer than the old one, just to improve aerodynamics at the back of the frame. But the company is quite open in saying they didn't really focus on making the back half of the frame more aero, because all the air back here is dirty and turbulent from the front of the bike and the rider's legs. So really focus on the front of the bike and less so at the back, and really try to minimize the tube dimension to increase aero where possible, but also save weight and improve stiffness. Specialized claims that a deeper seat tube, while it might look more aero, in reality doesn't add much with all the dirty and turbulent air at the back of the frame. So instead, it made a seat tube as narrow as possible. And it's so narrow in fact that a Shimano Di2 battery fits in a special bracket underneath the seat post, itself too skinny to accommodate the battery. And then there's the weight, and it does feel amazing in the hands, super lightweight indeed. And lighter than many other top-end race frames as well, even that new Factor O2 VAM, which I reviewed a little while ago. And the reason it's so lightweight is down to the development of the ethos from a few years ago, particularly in the down tube, which flares from the same width and shape and size as the head tube, then narrows down to the bottom bracket. And around the bottom bracket, the seat tube and the rear stays are very reminiscent of the ethos and also the crux as well. Very slender, very small tube profiles. And of course, a 68mm threaded bottom bracket down there. And with the frame in my hands like this, you can see just how they set the steering tube right back in the head tube there. And if I slide the fork in, you can see just what I mean. I've never seen anything like that before. It's set right back from the front of the head tube there. And the fork crown is flared to meet that to create a nice seamless junction. So very aero. You can see how deep the fork blades are, really, really deep. And a regular round steering tube as well, which is nice to see, no D-shaped nonsense here. So a very nice looking frame. And then of course there's a paint finish, and this one in particular looks amazing. A nice glittery, pearlescent, colour flip, two-tone paint finish that really pops in the sunny weather today. And Specialized, no, fair play to them, credit where it's due, do amazing paint jobs, and this one is definitely right up there with one of the best I've ever seen. Making a frame this lightweight is certainly very impressive, but the common downside to making any product, especially a frame, as light as possible is a compromise when it comes to stiffness. And often lightweight products can be flexy and flimsy. So here, Specialized to refocus on improving stiffness in all the key areas of the bike. So we have a stiffer bottom bracket, head tube and seat tube junction, and it claims, their claims not mine, that a new bike offers a 33% improvement in the stiffness to weight ratio. Now of course some of that improvement is down to lower weight of the frame, but claiming the frame is stiffer than the old bike. Yet despite that increase in stiffness, it's also claiming an improvement in comfort and compliance by up to 6%. We should talk about price and equipment options, and there'll be 3 levels of the new SL8. It will start with the Expert at £6,000, go up to the Pro for £8,000, and this, the S-Works, is £12,000 with Shimano Dura-Ace Di2 and Raval deep section aero wheels and that new aero handlebar as well. It's worth mentioning that all the bikes in the range, even the cheapest one, comes with a power meter as well, and that's a real nice thing to see because some bike manufacturers do cut corners on a power meter when power meters are more accessible and more affordable, and it's a bike after all designed for racing. There are frame set options as well, with a Pro and Expert level frame with FACT 10R carbon fibre, setting you back £3,000, or this range topping S-Works with the FACT 12R carbon fibre, so lighter, will set you back £4,750. So loads of impressive claims for the bike, but I think it's time to get changed and go for a ride and see how it actually performs. Right, here we are. You join me in the Surrey Hills, and I've planned a nice 45-kilometre loop to put the bike through its paces, featuring Cold Harbour Lane, Ramwell Common, and of course Box Hill. I used to live in London, so I know the roads very well, but it's been a few years since I rode around here. So a good test for the bike, quite lumpy, definitely hilly in places. And this is not an extensive review, just a taster, a teaser of what the bike is all about, but hopefully long enough to give me a fairly informed opinion of the new bike. But hopefully I'll get my hands on one for a longer term review in the future. And first impressions are that, surprise, surprise, it feels just like the SL7. The same handling, the same geometry, the same steering responses. I can feel that lack of weight straight away, you really notice it. And it should help me as we get onto Cold Harbour Lane coming up right now. Weight has been an area where aero bikes have definitely lagged behind over the last few years. And straight away, really feel the benefits of that low overall weight. The bike has a power meter, help me pace myself in the climb. It feels really good through the pedals. Doesn't feel flexy either. Good stiffness from the bottom bracket area. And that's just about the top of Cold Harbour Lane. The Surrey Hills is just full of these kind of deep lanes, sheltered from the daylight, and cheeky little climbs as well. I'm loving the weight of the bike. I've always said weight doesn't matter, but maybe it does. Maybe when it's done this well, weight is a good thing after all. Morning. The bike feels good on this rolling road right now. Really punches over the crest, gets up at speed really nicely. Just feels so light. It's so alive. Really nice steering as well. It's not twitchy or too fast. And this is Ramwell Common, a nice roller coaster, up and down, a swoopy, dippy road. That takes me eventually to Box Hill, the famous Box Hill. And to make it more interesting, I'm going to try and set a new PB. I've not ridden it in years, so I see how fast I can get up it. And this should be the right bike to give me every advantage I need. And boy, do I need them these days. so we'll see how we get on. And some people can be really sniffy and a bit elitist about Box Hill. And yeah, it's not the best climb in the world or the country, but given its location and where it is, I think it's fantastic. A really nice climb. A bit of a headwind today. That might impede my attempt. Try and keep it in the big ring for this flatter section before the first turn. Hello. Got the second hairpin done. Just about keeping it rolling in the big ring. If I get to the final turn in the big ring, then punch up the final bit, I'll be happy. All right. Click up through the gears, a few more meters, empty the tank. And there we go, Box Hill done. Not sure, to be honest, if I got a new PB, but I definitely felt fast. I felt really good actually. Stayed in the big ring the whole way up. The bike felt immense. I hate to admit it, but at Specialized, I played a blinder with a new bike. I can't believe how light it is and how aero they claim it is, and the way it rides, the smoothness, the composure, the balance of it. And based on this admittedly short ride, doesn't appear to be giving any sort of compromise at all.
Okay, I'm back home now and I've had a few days to reflect on my experience of riding the new SL8 and I have some more thoughts and observations to share with you. Now clearly, of course, one ride isn't enough for a very thorough and in-depth verdict, but nearly 50k on some good punchy roads does give a good first impression. As mentioned, the low weight really hits you straight away and everywhere, just as it did with the Factor 02 van I rode recently, which is a similar weight. You feel the lack of weight in the way it reacts to all the inputs coming from you and the road, and gives you just enough information without overloading your senses. Now, of course, I have been spoilt by riding a top-end S-Works model, but it would be nice to ride the lower Pro or Expert model to see what difference the heavier frame and components have on the ride quality of the bike, and how much of that experience is lost with the higher weight compared to the S-Works model. What I really like about the bike I rode is how well rounded it is. It feels taut and calm at all times and really smooths the edges of rough tarmac really nicely, better than a Factor in my experience. And on the bumpy roads I encountered, it doesn't make your spine tingle at all. The result of all that is a race bike that's like no race bike that's gone before it. Sharper, more focused and more immediate. A really mature and evolved bike. And that 20 years of evolution really shows in this new SL8. So, should you rush out and buy it? Well, if you want the best race bike on the market right now, then the new Tarmac SL8 has to go right to the top of your shortlist. I can't think of another bike that's as light and as aero. It is an expensive bike, of course, but it's only £200 more than the Factor I rode recently, and you get a power meter, and you get more aero wheel too, and it's only about 200 grams heavier, and that comparison makes the new SL8 look deeply impressive. So all things considered, it compares well to another similarly lightweight and claimed aero race bike. I'm not saying it's a bargain though, but the truth is these bikes will likely fly off the shop floors because while lots of people like to hate on Specialized, the reality is they are enduringly popular. And a new bike won't harm their reputation and popularity at all. With this new bike, Specialized has really thrown down a gauntlet. Will other bike brands be able to emulate this amazing combination of aero and weight? and race bikes that are finally hitting a UCI weight limit of 6.8 kilos with electronic gears, disc brakes, aerodynamics and pedals and everything ready to ride. No trickery to create a nice headline. So the new Tarmac SL8 is a very impressive bike, but what are your thoughts? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. As for me, well, I'm off to rob a bank, so I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.